Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the franchise guide.
Imagine if you were like, well, let me call Mark Cuban and you had his ear and you told him about an idea. They were wrong on the Ring doorbell, which is massive. They were wrong about so many other things. And then they invested a lot of money in things that didn't work, like that sweet balls. Like, what was that about? So I think even if you have people that could be experts, they could be wrong. You just need to trust your instinct. And the secret ingredient in a business is you.
I mean, I think back, if we had went around and tried to find reasons not to start, vote or make the acquisition and then franchise, I wouldn't have done it. There would be a million things that people would tell you. You just kind of have to talk to customers, obviously, to make, or potential customers and listen to them and see kind of their feedback. But anyone else, it doesn't matter. And, I'll give you another example. I've had so many times where people are close to buying a franchise, for example, and then they go, oh, well, like my neighbor has, advised me I shouldn't do it. I was like, what does your neighbor do? Oh, they're an accountant, or they're, whatever, a lawyer, or they're, they work in tech. It's like, why does your neighbor have any precedence on this decision? Well, they don't know anything about it. But people, a lot of times we just trust people that we know, even if they have no knowledge of space.
You just triggered a core memory. I was talking to this guy and I'll never forget. He worked his whole life and his wife stayed at home and he was like, it's finally my chance. I'm going to start a business. I really want to do something on my own. And his wife had this control over him where she was like, no. And I felt really bad because, like, number one, I was like, oh, what does she do for a living? Oh, she's never worked. I'm like, okay. But maybe she's like a business background professionally. Is she like in finance or is she examining the numbers? No, none of that. I was like, wow, like I'm thinking in my mind, like, she doesn't believe in you. Like that is so sad that you have someone that you've supported your whole life and like they still don't have faith in your abilities.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. I was actually just having that conversation with someone. What I've learned, and this is not really related to like talking to an advisor, not about buying a business, but just in general, when it comes to teammates and partnerships, something I've learned is that more times than not, in my experience in business, when I find that someone is acting differently, a lot of times you don't realize how much of that is driven by the spouse or the family members, whether it's a, company owned by, a father son, and all of a sudden it's not the father son relationship that can change. It's the son's spouse or the daughter's spouse that, starts to see the opportunity or starts to understand things a little bit differently and starts to get into their ear. And so I've learned something. It's so interesting. Like same with business partnerships. You better make sure that you have a pretty good relationship with the spouse of your business partner, because if you don't have the trust there too, that can go really quickly the other way. Because of course they're going to side with their spouse as they should, but if they don't have all the information or lifestyle changes, it's very important to be careful of that.
So would you say, I think it's important for everyone to be at the table. So if you are buying a franchise, whatever the business is, that partnership, everyone should be on the table. Everyone should know exactly what's involved, because as a consultant, if we're talking about a franchise, maybe they're not, relaying that message back to the spouse. So I always, mention, hey, we'd like everyone to be on these calls together. So if there's a concern or a question, we all kind of are on the same page. Not easy, and I don't know if you would agree, but to get everyone on the phone, but it just makes it so much simpler. And that way everyone knows the plan. And the expectation is we're going to grow this. This is where we want to be. Maybe the plan is to sell it in 10 years. So I think that's crucial. I think everyone involved in the decision and even the families, why is mom or dad buying this franchise? It's so we can spend more time with Mia and everybody else. So, that's the reason for doing it.
I think I put the fear of God into people because when we have that conversation, I'm like, take it from someone that's been divorced. You either do something to your spouse or you do it with them.
Right.
So I would definitely recommend having your spouse on the calls, and they're on the calls.
100%. And they don't have to be on every call. Like my wife was on the first call and she was like, great. She's like, you're going to run your business. I'll support you every way I can, but I'm going to keep my job. And she's been at the same employer for 25 years and she's happy there. But she said, I understand the risk. She was on the first call. And then after that, she said, I don't have to be on the calls. Just let me know kind of what's going on. And that was our agreement, and it worked out fine.
Okay, your spouse is supportive, but now comes the reality check. What are realistic financial expectations for year one in a franchise? And why is the instant profit mindset a recipe for disaster?
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.